Hi, LZ Control 556, working on some arrows today. I have a local hardware store that stocks the PSE Radial Weave STL hunters. This is a 200 series arrow. This is really a very nice arrow. This is a badass arrow. They only stock these arrows, and when I talked to them a few months ago and asked them about arrows, they said, yeah, they'll never even carry another arrow because they have so much confidence in these. But what I have found with the PSE STL hunters is that if your bow, for example, recurve archery only, this applies, and I'm speaking today about recurve bow arrow making, and some things that I do to customize the arrows that I use for different purposes. But basically, short and sweet is I've got a very good supply and access to the STL Hunter arrows, which I love. What I have found is that if your bow is rated for 45 to 50 pounds, use an arrow less than PSE rates that arrow for. For example, in my 45 and 50 pound bows, that would call for a 200 series arrow, this one. However, I can use the 100 series arrow, which does have less grains per inch than the 200, but I shorten mine to, they come in 32-inch lengths, and I shorten mine to 29.5 inches, which makes the arrow stiffer, and they fly just great. And I use the vanes. The reason I'm building these today is because I bought these on eBay, not at the hardware store. Sorry guys, but these have the 4-inch plastic vanes, and I like, I've got feathers, I've got all kinds of stuff with whatever I want, but I choose to use the plastic vanes because they are more durable, they're weatherproof, period, and I use just a bare weather rest on my recurve bows, which is highly recommended. I do have a couple of bows that I shoot off the shelf, and what I do is I put short little cuts in the arrow fletches, just like a feather. I just take a pair of scissors and cut so that when it goes through there, it doesn't interfere nearly as much. It acts more like a feather. These are the blazer vanes. These are the short 2-inch vanes. But what I'm doing today is I've decided to build these arrows. I got a dozen of these radial weave arrows with 4-inch fletches for 60 bucks, free shipping. And I can use those out of a variety of my bows, but I know that they fly good out of my 45 and 50 pound bows. And I recently got a 75 pound bow. Well, I can actually use this arrow in that bow if I do a couple of little cheap things to it. Now, Three Rivers Archery, and there's some others out there that have very good parts. They're outstanding quality. But you can get some of this stuff at your local hardware store. For example, if you have arrows like I do for my compound bows, this is a Carbon Express Terminator Hunter. I can actually use that arrow right there. If I have, half a dozen of them, and I wanted to, say, commit 2 of those to my recurve bow, I can do some things to this arrow, and that's kind of what I wanted to show you today. But this applies for arrows that you're going to use for whatever bow you're standard using now anyway. And it comes in the form of very simple parts. Brass inserts like these, forgive the mess, this is my arrow building mayhem shop right here, but I've got general, you can see, I'll show you, I'm not ashamed, I don't give a damn. I've got a worn out DeWalt drill. All these are just hand tools. You need no special tools whatsoever to do this. These are gold tip brass inserts that a lot of us use in the tips of our arrows to give us weight, front of center weight, so that our arrows can fly true and so that they can have some mass on impact. Today's bows, today's archery in the compound world, those bows right there are all about speed, or their intended use is from bottom to top. They go from, that bow is an 80-pound bow, and it's all I can do to work with it. This is the PSE Game Sport, the Polaris, and that's a badass bow. That bow right there, for all intents and purposes, is the only one I'd ever need. It's about 30 inches axle to axle. And I've got, here's my recurve section. You can see some of them are missing there. That's a That's a Bear Archery black bear. Interesting that it has a brown belly and back. This is a Kodiak Hunter. This is a really nice recurve bow. Really nice recurve bow. But you can see there, this is a good example. You can see here that I have STL Hunters, radial weave Hunters. This is a 100. Let's see if I can get this so you can see. It's upside down, so just bear with me. I can prove it. It's a 100 series arrow that I have, and that's a 50-pound bow. I know because it says it right there. It's a 50-pound Kodiak Hunter. Beautiful bow, but I'm using a 100 series arrow out of that. And the reason that I can do that is I've got weight up front. Those are brass inserts. So I ran out of brass inserts. These don't fit. These fit aluminum arrows. And so I started thinking, well, really what I'm looking for is weight. I don't care if it's brass or not. So I went to the local hardware store and I purchased a stick of threaded rod. This is 1/4 inch. This is 1/4 inch threaded rod. Take my word for it. Fits beautifully. The price, I should definitely show you that. The price was, this is horrible, at least from my point of view. $5.99 is what I paid for that. $6 for a threaded rod. So I came back and I cut a 1-inch section, and a 1-inch section weighs about 75 grains. Then I cut a 2-inch section, and a 2-inch section, lo and behold, weighs 150 grains. So I cut several 2-inch sections, and you can see how many more I'm going to have. I mean, this threaded rod was $6 for a piece about 6 foot long. So I'm going to get a whole bunch of 2-inch pieces out of that. But as I was walking out, I looked at the wooden dowels that were there. And I picked up 1/4 inch. These are actually very good wooden dowels. These are 1/4 inch Brazilian hardwood. And I don't know why everybody wants to show everything. That annoys me on YouTube. But they do, so I will too, or try to. It's Brazilian hardwood, trust me. Anyway, nice wooden dowel. Well, guess what? It fits every single arrow, carbon arrow that I've tried it in, inside the arrow. So you can take your, and never make permanent modifications to your arrows unless you're really dedicating them. Like I have these with Zwicky's 135 grain Zwicky Delta. They're not Deltas, they're 4-blade up there. But you can insert, and I could take that arrow right there and pull off the knock and insert a 29-inch length of this wooden dowel in there, and it adds grains per inch. And what that gives you is power. Today's archery is a lot about speed. But years ago, and the type of traditional archery that we're all participating in, the zen of it, the foundation of it is power. So I'm making some arrows today that are going to provide me with power versus speed. I'm going to have some good speed because I'm using a 200 series arrow in 50-pound bows. I've got 4-inch vanes on those, and I have up front here, I have a 2-inch section of threaded rod. Fits in there very nicely. But what I did was I took a short section of wooden dowel and I cut little 1/4-inch pieces, and I can insert that in the arrow using the threaded rod and find its seating point using a insert. And I'm using the PSE red inserts in these so that I can identify the arrows. And I seat all of that. Then without gluing, I pull the insert back out, and the threaded rod, pretty much you can tap it on the floor and it falls right out. I'm going to show you in just a moment. Then I tip the arrow up, put a couple of drops of that super glue right there. That is really good super glue. You can say it says quick, extra strong super glue, and it is. It's very good stuff. A couple of drops of super glue down in there, and that seats that little wooden plug. Then I put the threaded rod halfway in, put some super glue, put some super glue just real quick right along the threads. A little goes a very long way. And then I push it in with the insert, pull the insert back out just a little bit, put a drop of super glue on it, and then seat it ram it home. And you need to put, once you put the super glue on the insert itself, you need to go ahead and push that in quickly, because it will set quickly. But the end result is, folks, is that I've got an insert, and I didn't have to pay. I paid $6, where a pack of these brass inserts that you see there is about $15. And they're great. They are awesome. But we can accomplish the same thing. This is a working man's custom arrow, and make no mistake, this is custom arrow building that you're doing. And there's no better gratification. We all know that. We get bows, we set them up, we're trying to gear our bows towards the type of hunting we're doing. So I can take these arrows with the wooden dowels inside them, which adds about several grains per inch, and transform that arrow into something that I can now hunt hogs with. I like to use broadheads in the 100 to 125 grain range for deer, thin-skinned game, any thin-skinned game. So I can use, with this weight up front, if I put this 150 grains up front and underneath that insert, then I'll have 150 grains of weight up there, and I can mount a 100 grain broadhead. And I like the Carbon Express natives. I like the Zwickeys. The two-edged Zwickeys are badass. Any of the Zwickey broadheads, but basically the traditional type steel, non-vented, non-fluted, two-blade broadheads will always get the job done. They are notorious for stopping big game. But the point is that I have plenty of weight up front here, and so I can use that 100 grain warhead up front on top of that arrow. And it gives you some options. And now I can take that arrow, I can pop the knock end off of this thing, and I can drop that wooden dowel in there and throw a 160 grain Zwickey up here, and I can go hunt pigs with that thing. So I've got some supersonic versatility in my arrow making, and you can make these modifications permanent, or you can make them non-permanent, however you wish. The point is that you can get these things, these wooden dowel rods, at your local hardware store, and it's all quarter inch. Quarter inch is the perfect size for any carbon arrow that I have, and I've got several. I've got just a small sample right here. These are both, this is kind of interesting, these are Carbon Express 4560s. These are some older arrows. This is a Carbon Rebel 4560. Fits, that wooden dowel fits perfectly in there. No play, no slop, no wiggle room. This is a Carbon Rebel 6075, and it fits perfectly inside that. These are cheap Allen Company arrows, and I say cheap only because of the price. These are terrific arrows, folks. These arrows were rated from 50 to 70 pounds, and I think I paid, I don't know, I think I paid 21 bucks for them, for maybe a pack of 6. And they are, you know, for my lighter bows, they're too stiff for my lighter bows, for my 45 and 50 pound bows. But if I do what I'm talking about, that's one of the problem resolutions that I came up with, and why I came up with it is you can use inexpensive arrows. Cut a 2-inch piece of threaded rod, which weighs 150 grains. Insert your small wooden plugs in the end of that arrow, and glue all that down, and now you've got some good, really good weight up front, which is going to increase the flexibility or decrease the spine, however you want to think about that. Basically, I'm looking at, I like to run my arrows, if I'm using a 50-pound bow, I like to have at least 490 grain arrow. So I'm looking at about 8 grains per pound of bow weight on my arrows, and the rule of thumb is 10. Usually everybody likes to gotta have 10, gotta have 10. I find that you don't. In fact, the stiffer the arrow, usually one size less, one spine weight less, it will usually fly like darts if you have weight up front, and that's the key. If you're just going out and buying Carbon Express arrows and putting putting 100 grain warhead on it or field tip, it's going to fly kind of goofy. if you go out and buy, for a 50-pound bow, if you buy these 60-75s like I have, and I had several of these for my compound bows, these did not fly well out of my 45-pound, 45 and 50-pound bows. They just didn't. But when I added weight up front and a heavier warhead, it changes the spine of the arrow, the flexibility, and that weight up front also gives you superb penetration. And that penetration is needed on wild hogs. You can argue that you could need it on deer, quartering shots on deer. We want to get, you know, basically 20 yards or closer. So nothing wrong with having a, you know, 200 grains of absolute razor blade killing power on the tip of your arrow. So you might want to give this a try. I think I had $6 in the threaded rod. These were 75 cents a piece. These are not expensive at all. They fit like they're made for carbon arrows. You can imagine that it adds a little, it takes away a little bit of that hollow sound. It gives you a very, very sweet flying dart, and that's what we're trying to achieve with recurve archery, and it's just amazingly rewarding to see that come off of your rest and track that all the way to your target and know that you put that together. So I'm going to go build some arrows, folks. Thanks for watching. I'll have some more things coming up soon.